A fresh wave of deadly strikes has once again shaken Tel Aviv, underscoring how rapidly the conflict between Iran and Israel has escalated into one of the most dangerous and far-reaching wars in the modern Middle East. What began as a series of retaliatory military operations has now spiraled into a multi-front confrontation involving regional powers, global actors, and civilian populations caught in the middle of an increasingly destructive cycle of violence. In the latest incident, a residential building in central Tel Aviv was struck by projectile fragments, leaving at least one person dead and several others injured. The impact tore through the structure with brutal force, ripping open walls and exposing entire sections of the apartment block. Concrete slabs collapsed inward, windows shattered across multiple floors, and debris spilled onto the surrounding streets. The aftermath painted a grim picture of urban warfare. Homes turned into rubble within seconds. Emergency response teams moved swiftly. Ambulances and rescue vehicles flooded the area as first responders rushed to stabilize the wounded and search for survivors. Police units quickly established a secure perimeter, restricting access as fears of further incoming strikes lingered in the air. Residents, many still in shock, gathered nearby, watching helplessly as emergency crews worked through the wreckage. Inside the building, rescue teams navigated unstable staircases and collapsed interiors, carefully moving debris piece by piece. Every step was calculated, every movement deliberate as they searched for signs of life beneath the rubble. Outside, water from ruptured pipes flowed across the streets, mixing with dust and fragments of concrete, adding to the chaotic scene. Drones were deployed above the site, providing aerial assessments of the damage. From above, the scale of destruction became even more apparent. Entire sections of the building had been blown open, revealing the interiors of what were once ordinary living spaces. Bedrooms, kitchens, and hallways now stood exposed, frozen in time amid devastation. The nature of these strikes highlights a significant shift in the tactics being used in this war. Iran has increasingly deployed ballistic missiles equipped with cluster warheads, munitions that release multiple smaller explosives mid-air. These submunitions scatter across a wide area, making them far more difficult to intercept once deployed and significantly increasing their destructive reach. This strategy appears aimed at overwhelming Israel's advanced air defense systems. While interception rates remain high, even a small number of missiles managing to evade defenses can cause catastrophic damage, particularly in densely populated urban areas. The conflict itself traces back to February 28, 2026, when coordinated strikes by the United States and Israel targeted Iranian military and nuclear-linked infrastructure. In response, Iran launched waves of ballistic missiles and drones toward Israel and U.S. military assets across the region. Since then, the war has escalated dramatically, expanding beyond its original scope. Casualties have risen sharply on all sides. Reports indicate that thousands have been killed across the region, including significant civilian losses in Iran due to sustained airstrikes on infrastructure and urban areas. In Israel, repeated missile attacks have struck cities and towns, causing deaths, injuries, and widespread damage. Earlier incidents included direct strikes on residential areas in Tel Aviv, killing civilians and injuring dozens. The war has also drawn in the United States more directly. One of the most significant escalations occurred when Iran targeted Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, a critical hub for U.S. military operations in the region. According to U.S. officials, at least a dozen American troops were wounded in the attack, with 2 sustaining serious injuries. The strike involved a combination of missiles and drones and caused damage to military aircraft and infrastructure. This incident is part of a broader pattern. More than 300 U.S. military personnel have been injured since the conflict began, with at least 13 confirmed fatalities. The widening scope of the war is perhaps its most alarming feature. What began as a confrontation between Iran and Israel has now spread across multiple countries, including Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and even maritime zones near Oman. Missile and drone strikes have targeted military installations, ports, and infrastructure across the region, signaling a shift toward a broader regional conflict. Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi movement has also entered the conflict, launching missile attacks toward Israel. This development adds another layer of complexity and increases the risk of further escalation. At the same time, Israel continues to conduct strikes deep inside Iranian territory, targeting missile production facilities, military infrastructure, and key strategic sites. These operations are aimed at degrading Iran's ability to sustain its missile campaign, but they also contribute to the ongoing cycle of retaliation. The economic implications of the war are becoming increasingly evident. Tensions around critical shipping routes, particularly in the Persian Gulf, have disrupted global energy markets. Oil prices have surged, supply chains have been strained, and financial markets have shown signs of instability as uncertainty continues to grow. Despite the scale of destruction and rising casualties, both sides appear committed to continuing their military campaigns. Statements from political and military leaders have further intensified the situation, reflecting a tone of defiance rather than de-escalation. Iran had been obliterated. Donald Trump, President of the United States. Never in recorded history has a nation's military been so quickly and so effectively neutralized. Pete Hegseth, U.S. Defense Secretary. These statements suggest confidence in military success, yet the ongoing strikes and continued casualties indicate a far more complex and unresolved conflict. On the ground, the reality is stark. In Tel Aviv, residents live under the constant threat of incoming missiles. Sirens can sound at any moment, forcing families into shelters with little warning. The psychological toll is immense as civilians navigate a daily life shaped by uncertainty and fear. In Iran, the impact is equally severe. Airstrikes have targeted infrastructure and urban areas, leading to widespread destruction and significant civilian casualties. Reports highlight the challenges of conducting precise operations in densely populated regions where the risk to civilians remains high. Across neighboring countries, the effects of the conflict are being felt in different ways. Some have experienced direct attacks, while others are dealing with the economic and political consequences of a destabilized region. The humanitarian toll continues to rise. Families are displaced, communities are disrupted, and basic services are strained under the pressure of ongoing conflict. Each new strike adds to the growing number of victims and deepens the crisis. Diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the situation are ongoing, but progress remains limited. International actors have called for restraint and negotiations, yet military operations continue at full intensity. The gap between diplomatic rhetoric and on-the-ground reality remains wide. The risk of further escalation is significant. With multiple actors involved and tensions running high, even a single miscalculation could trigger a broader and more devastating conflict. The involvement of additional countries, whether directly or indirectly, could transform the war into a larger regional or even global crisis. As the conflict enters its second month, there is little indication that it will end soon. Both sides continue to pursue their objectives through military means, while civilians bear the brunt of the consequences. The strike on Tel Aviv serves as a powerful reminder of the human cost of this war. Behind every statistic is a story, a life disrupted, a family affected, a community changed forever. Missiles continue to light up the skies, leaving trails of fire across the night. On the ground, rescue teams continue their work, searching through rubble, saving lives where they can, and recovering what has been lost. The region remains on edge, caught in a cycle of escalation that shows no clear signs of slowing. What began as a confrontation between nations has now become a complex, multi-layered conflict with far-reaching implications. For millions of people, the war is not just a geopolitical event, it is a daily reality. It is the sound of sirens, the sight of destruction, and the constant uncertainty of what comes next. And as the violence continues, one thing becomes increasingly clear: this is no longer a limited conflict. It is a war that is expanding, intensifying, and reshaping the region in ways that will be felt for years to come.